Under the dim light of a lonely stage, a man stands with his guitar, eyes closed, strings whispering truths too raw for words. That man is John Mayer. Before he was crowned the modern poet of heartbreak, before the Grammys and the gossip columns, he was just a quiet kid from Connecticut who found his voice through 6 steel strings. His music could make you fall in love, or remember the pain of losing it. His words, tender yet sharp, painted portraits of longing that spoke to millions. But behind every melody was a war, between fame and authenticity, between the man the world saw and the soul he tried to protect. So how did John Mayer rise from a dorm room dreamer to a global icon, then lose it all, only to find himself again? This is not just the story of a musician. It's the story of a man who turned heartbreak into harmony, and silence into salvation. John Clayton Mayer was born on October 16, 1977, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, a quiet town where the nights were long and dreams felt distant. His father was a high school principal, his mother a teacher, both devoted, disciplined, and expecting a sensible life for their son. But John was never meant for the ordinary. As a child, he was introspective, the kind of boy who'd drift away mid-conversation, lost in invisible music. Then one night, everything changed. He watched Back to the Future, saw Marty McFly tear through a solo on stage, and lightning struck. From that moment, the guitar became his language, his way of explaining emotions he couldn't speak aloud. He practiced obsessively, bleeding fingers and skipping sleep, mimicking the soul of Stevie Ray Vaughan from worn-out tapes. But beneath the music was something deeper: anxiety, loneliness, and a sense that he didn't quite fit anywhere. While other kids played baseball, John played the blues, trying to turn his ache into art. His parents argued about his obsession, worried he'd fall behind in life. Yet for Mayer, music wasn't rebellion. It was refuge. And in that refuge, the seeds of a future legend quietly began to grow. By his late teens, John Mayer's world had narrowed down to one thing: music. He enrolled at Berklee College of Music in Boston, but the walls of academia couldn't contain his restless ambition. After just 2 semesters, he packed his guitar, left school, and drove south to Atlanta, chasing a dream too loud to ignore. There, he formed a duo called Lo-Fi Masters with his friend Clay Cook, playing smoky coffee houses and open mics where only a handful of people listened. But even in those small rooms, there was something magnetic about him. The way his guitar cried, the way his lyrics cut deep, but never begged for pity. When the duo split, Mayer went solo, pouring every ounce of his heart into an independent EP called Inside Wants Out. That record, passed hand to hand, caught the attention of Columbia Records, and soon, the world would hear him. In 2001, Room for Squares arrived. It was warm, intimate, and unapologetically honest, an antidote to the glossy pop dominating the charts. Your Body is a Wonderland became an instant sensation, earning him his first Grammy and the image of a gentle, romantic soul. But behind that polished smile was a man still searching, not for fame, but for meaning. The success of Room for Squares didn't just make John Mayer famous. It made him a phenomenon. With his boy-next-door charm and lyrical honesty, he became the poster child of early 2000s pop introspection. Songs like No Such Thing and Why Georgia turned loneliness into poetry, and for a moment, the world fell in love with his vulnerability. But Mayer was never content with being just a pop star. He craved depth, the kind that could only be found in the blues. He began to evolve, trading radio-friendly hooks for soulful guitar riffs, and in 2006, he released what many call his masterpiece, Continuum. The album was a revelation, rich, mature, and aching with truth. Tracks like Gravity and Slow Dancing in a Burning Room weren't just songs, they were confessions wrapped in melody. Critics compared him to Eric Clapton, while Clapton himself called Mayer a master. The Grammys followed, as did collaborations with legends like B.B. King and Herbie Hancock. On stage, he was electric, eyes closed, lost in a trance only music could bring. Yet the brighter the spotlight grew, the more it exposed his flaws. His relationships became tabloid fuel, his every word dissected. He was both adored and misunderstood, a virtuoso trapped in the myth of his own image. At the height of fame, John Mayer stood on top of the world, but somewhere inside, he could already feel the silence creeping back. Fame, like gravity, always pulls down what it lifts, and for John Mayer, the charming guitar prodigy turned heartthrob, the fall was inevitable. By the late 2000s, his music wasn't the only thing making headlines. His high-profile romances with Jessica Simpson, Jennifer Aniston, and later Taylor Swift became public spectacle. Every lyric was dissected, every breakup analyzed. What began as admiration slowly turned into obsession, and Mayer, once soft-spoken, began to push back. Then came the Playboy interview of 2010. A few reckless words, arrogant, careless, and painfully human, ignited a storm. Suddenly, the nice guy of pop was recast as the villain. He was labeled egotistical, toxic, unfiltered. His songs were no longer celebrated. They were scrutinized for hidden spite. The backlash was brutal. Radio stations turned away, tabloids feasted, and fans who once saw sincerity now saw scandal. Mayer retreated, not into defiance, but into silence. And then, fate struck again. His voice began to fail. A vocal cord granuloma forced him into surgery, and for months, he couldn't sing at all. The man who once spoke to the world through melody could barely whisper. It was as if the universe had pressed pause, demanding he listen before he spoke again. In that silence, John Mayer met the only person he'd been running from all along, himself. After losing his voice, John Mayer disappeared from the noise, from fame, from interviews, from the image he no longer recognized. He retreated to Montana, trading red carpets for mountain trails and silence. For the first time in years, he wasn't chasing applause. He was chasing peace. When he returned in 2012 with Born and Raised, everything had changed. His sound, his soul, even his face beneath a cowboy hat. Gone was the pop prodigy. In his place stood a man weathered by time and truth. The album was raw and reflective, steeped in folk and Americana, like a journal set to melody. It wasn't made to impress. It was made to heal. Fans who once saw a playboy now saw a poet reborn. He followed it with Paradise Valley and The Search for Everything, albums that carried a quieter wisdom. Songs not of desire, but of acceptance. And when he joined Dead & Company, playing alongside members of the Grateful Dead, he seemed free. No longer a headline, just a man, a guitar, and a piece he'd spent years trying to find. John Mayer had learned that redemption isn't found in fame. It's found in the silence that follows. Today, John Mayer stands as one of the rare artists who survived both fame and himself. He's no longer chasing hits, he's chasing honesty. And through every note he plays, there's a quiet wisdom that only pain could teach. His journey, from the clean-cut wonder boy of pop to the introspective wanderer of the American West, mirrors the evolution of every artist who's dared to grow up in public. He taught a generation that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the deepest form of strength. In an age of noise, he remains a craftsman of silence, letting the spaces between notes say what words cannot. To some, he's a flawed genius. To others, a misunderstood romantic. But to his listeners, John Mayer will always be something simpler. A reminder that music can still be human. Because in the end, every guitar he's ever touched didn't just sing, it confessed. John Mayer's story reminds us that redemption isn't about perfection. It's about rediscovering what truly matters. If his music ever healed a moment in your life, like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories behind the stars.